Okay, so here's a quick video I saw online that somebody mentioned that brake cleaner would also work on stripping this, and they're right. It's working pretty quick. I'll do a test spot here. Just kind of let it sit. And then at the moment I have some #1 steel wool. This red is so thick. As you can see it, there it goes. I'm going to switch to a finer steel wool once I start getting into this, because I'm not wanting to tear up the blue. But you can see it works real good. When I did, okay, now I'm going to switch to the method that I did the rest of it, lacquer thinner, and then just pouring it on. A little more awkward just holding the phone and doing this. So you can see I'm getting it good and wet. And you can watch how quickly it's just eating it up. Now, it's not messing with the original paint because this is the same way that I did this side. And now I've got some of the double aught. So I'm using this when it gets to closer to the original paint, and then I have some of the 4 for when I'm right on top of it, but to do the main stripping, just using the #1. And then just keeping this good and wet, and then move some of this in. Pour some on the steel wool as well. That way it just keeps it wet the whole time, keep it eating. Because the more it eats with this, the less scratching and the less material you're going to remove that you don't want to with this. Just gives you a little more control, but you can see how quickly it's just eating that up. Now granted, I've said before, you know, this is going to vary on what type of paint was used, you know, lacquers, enamels, urethanes, all that kind of stuff. Everything's kind of its own animal. So sometimes one thing will work, and then the next time you go to use it, it's a different type of paint, which you never know 100% what you're working. So I got another chance today to spend a little more time stripping paint on here. This is how far I got last time. So I think the plan for today is going to be start here and go on back. And that'll probably be the amount of time that I have to spend today, but we'll see how far we get. Okay, so 2 hours later, this is what we have. She is looking good. you hit patches of it where it just wants to fall right off practically, and others that it just seems like they're never going to come off. But it's turning out great. I expected, you know, to see things like this. I mean, the car was sanded and painted, so you know, things happen. I mean, clear identifiers of that anyway. This side, you know, I know there's a little filler here and there, so it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, there's the blue right there and everywhere, so it'll be interesting to see what this door turns out like. So as I've been working on this, I came up with the name for her. I figured Betty Lou seemed about right, so that's what we're gonna call her. And I'll say too, so I've probably at this point used, let's see, probably around 3 gallons of lacquer thinner. And when I started using the brake cleaner to kind of mix it up in certain areas that worked better than the thinner, I would say probably 12 to 14 cans of brake cleaner. So it is going to be anything but a cheap way of getting the look. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you think about it, if I spend $350 to get all this original paint back, you know, between Scotch Brights where I use those, steel wool, thinners, brake cleaners, all that kind of stuff, I mean, I'm completely happy with that myself. But if anyone thinks, you know, that it's going to be, you know, less than that, just kind of give you a heads up. It's not going to be real cheap. And then, you know, obviously the time that you're going to have invested. But this is exactly what I was going for, and I'll be 100 times happier with this car and what I want to do with it than if I stripped it all down, pulled, you know, the body off and paint detailed everything and did all that stuff. You don't really enjoy them after that. I mean, then they're more of a trailer queen showpiece. And I mean, you go to a car show, you line them up, and well, there you go. There's, you know, 10 cars that look the same practically. I'm just not into that anymore. My plans for this is to, you know, retain the originality of it as much as possible and drive it. You know, I'm going to put a new top, I'll do all that. I'll replace the door panels, carpet, but the seats, I'm leaving the seats. Everything that I can leave, I'm going to. I've been contemplating, like on the motor here, you know, whether I go and repaint it or I just leave it like this, you know, pull it out, reseal it, clean it, all that kind of good stuff. But it's just one of those things I have to figure out. Kind of like the floors, you know, the fronts of these floors are completely fine. But back here under the seat, back here, let's see if I can move this up real quick. You know, it's all Swiss cheese. And the other side's worse. You know, typical battery really went through and so on. So it's one of those things too. Do you want to pull the body off, do full pan halves, or do you want to leave the body on, retain as much of the original floors as possible, and section it? So, you know, things to consider. But this is where it is. The next time I update this video, I'll just wait until I get all the rest of this red off. Pretty much just the rest of the car will be all blue at that point, and we'll see what it looks like at that time. So let me know what you guys think about, you know, like, would you do whole pan halves? Would you section them in? You know, let me know. All right, thanks for watching.